us, everyone, is that today we have a case discussion. Now,
No, sir.
as I am the hello, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Hello, right, thank you. So, am I audible clearly?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, guys, what is the main emphasis for today's discussion, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone, is that we have a case discussion on an arteriovenous fistula. Now, the level of the discussion will start from an undergraduate level, and definitely we will go to a postgraduate level, particularly with an emphasis for your national board examinations and an Indian MS examinations. But definitely, as we talk about a postgraduate level examination, those of you who will be appearing for your MRCS examinations as well, this becomes a very important case, followed by your FRCS exit examinations as well. So today with us we have Dr. Shubhabroto Banerjee. Dr. Banerjee is a vascular surgeon. So we will be taking a lot of inputs from Dr. Banerjee about, particularly an AV fistula is a common, say, a daily bread and butter of a vascular surgeon. So we will be taking multiple tips, multiple question answer formats on that. So today's discussion will be a unique one in which I will like to be both as a student and as a teacher, and definitely we will take opinions from Shubhabroto, Dr. Banerjee. Okay, right. Okay, so Dr. Shubha, are you online?
Yes, sir, I'm on.
Hello. Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I will start. So definitely that I have the. So I will take around 15-20 minutes. Shubho, initially to talk about what is an AV fistula, and then we will talk about each of these cases, how a student should present in an examination, and what are the what are the conventional questions followed by the recent advances. Now, to begin with, ladies and gentlemen, when you talk about an arteriovenous fistula, now, as you all know, the word fistula technically means that this is a communication between two tubes or two pipes. Now, in general surgery or gastrointestinal surgery, we talk about two kinds of epithelium, like say for example, a intercutaneous enteroenteric fistulas. But in a case of an arteriovenous fistula, this epithelium story gets changed, and this epithelium is replaced very quickly by not the epithelium but the endothelium of the vessel, which joins into this. Now, what is important is that in a case of a artificially created fistula, what is important is that the lining epithelium of one, say for example, we talk about the vein, and I'm trying to make the endothelium very clearly, and on a parallel notice I would like to make the endothelium of the artery. Now what happens is that this endothelium, unlike that of this one, now if this is an artery, and in a parallel wall if you have a vein that are lying too close together, and then they will not form a fistula or a communication until and unless, what are the things that can really lead to such a thing to happen? Well, you see, the first one that can happen are three things. That is something that I always say. Number one is that, or the first one is a penetrating trauma. That means, particularly if you think over that there has been a collision between the artery and the vein. That means this is the vein and this is the artery. And remember that this is the vein and this is the artery. And then there has been something that has penetrated into this area. And this penetration has led on to a clot forming. And this clot, when the macrophages have done their job, leads to recanalization, in which the artery and vein will join together. Now, the best example of such penetrating traumas, so definitely within a minute we'll have your again the experiences of Dr. Banerjee. But in trauma, remember that usually the type of the trauma is a penetrating injury, and penetrating injury with a low surface or a small surface area. Now, the best example of such examples are occasionally seen, particularly in developing countries like India, where you will get to see that. I do not know how many of you have seen a rooster or a cockfight, which is very common in countries like India and Thailand. And remember that the rooster, etc., what happens is that when they fight, their legs have and blades that are attached, and when they jump, usually it is the popliteal artery and the popliteal vein which gets the brunt of one clean half a slice. There is a gush of bleed, someone does a bandage over this, and you have a trauma. So remember that the first of the causes, which is very important, is a traumatic injury to this area, and these traumatic injuries are usually sharp injuries in this area. Mind you that stab injuries and gunshot wounds are usually not the cause of an AV fistula. The second cause of an AV fistula in this one, so after trauma, the second cause of an AV fistula will be a surgically created AV fistula. As I have said, is a surgically created AV fistula, which is definitely used for a hemodialysis access, which becomes an important surgical procedure that you as a postgraduate should know. Next, the third one is something that God created for some interesting reasons, is a congenital AV fistula, which is not exactly called as an AV fistula. It is called as an arteriovenous malformation, which as such stands out with in your postgraduate examinations into multiple syndromes, starting from the very common Klippel-Trenaunay-Weber syndrome to multiple syndromes. But remember, arteriovenous malformations are usually, vascular surgeons will have a problem in calling them as a fistula, probably because that their communications that they have are not usually one, but there are usually multiple communications over one limited area. So what happens effectively is that the clinical manifestations looks like that of an arteriovenous fistula, whereas on the other side, well, we really have some little time. Now again, coming back to something called as an AV fistula, as I've said, if you have something which is traumatic or congenital, there is nothing that is interposition. But in a surgically created fistula, you can have an interposition graft that can be used. The graft will act as a conduit to divert the blood and is a very common procedure that is used for a hemodialysis access. So this is the first part of the story, something called as an AV fistula. Why does it form? Now the next side of the story is that what happens at an AV fistula, coming to your examination points. Now whenever you get a patient of an arteriovenous fistula, you see, for a practical examination purpose, majority of arteriovenous fistulas that you shall get are usually surgically created. So that means for a hemodialysis access. That means if you think over that, what are the sites of a surgically created fistula? The very common site is usually around the wrist, where the radial artery and the cephalic vein are used for creating the fistula. So the first one is the site of the fistula. Now, when you think over at the site of the fistula, as I've said, the common site is around the wrist, where it is usually a communication between the radial artery and the cephalic vein. I am not good at names. What is a bristia? What is a seminofistulas? Okay. The second common site will be somewhere around the brachial artery, and we have again the antecubital vein, or again the cephalic vein and the basilic vein. So we have second sites. The third one could have been a interposition one, where the artery could have been anastomosed with the surface veins. So these are the first part of the discussion, is what are the usual sites. But now whatever can be, ladies and gentlemen, the cause of fistula or the technique of fistula, what comes, okay, kindly mute your audios, everyone. Okay, now, so what happens is that whatever could have been the site of the fistula, the manifestations that can happen at the fistula are very quickly simple to understand. Say, for example, this is the limb that has this fistula. Now, see this thing to remember. I draw this picture even to my undergraduates so that they can remember. Now, what is important is that, say, for example, this is the artery. So I should take the color red, sir. Just wait. Yeah, so I should take the color red. So now, say for example, this is the artery that is coming down to this limb, and parallel to this, there is a vein that has been joined or has joined, and this is the fistula that has formed. Now, let us see what are the changes that can happen if there is a fistula. See, the first of the changes, remember that always that in vein, blood flows to the heart. So this is the first thing to remember. In an artery, the first thing to remember is that the blood flows towards the limb. That means, please remember the direction and the color of the arrows. That means these are the digital arteries. Please remember this picture, that these are the digital arteries. Now, always remember that I should have taken a thicker pen to suggest that the blood flow direction is very great. See the pressure in the blood flow. So if you remember this basic thing, now let us make a very quick point. What are the changes that will happen at the level of the fistula? So let us have this point done. What are the changes that happens at the level of the fistula? Now, see, at the level of the fistula, definitely, as you have already known what are the changes. What happens is that the communication quickly dilates to form a sac-like structure. That means this communication forms effectively an aneurysmal sac-like structure. Now, this aneurysmal sac-like structure has definitely an endothelium that lines it, but outside the endothelium, remember that there is some amount of fibrosis that is inevitable to occur. Definitely in a surgically created fistula with a good technique, the amount of the fibrosis that is going to be created is not that great. But say this is a traumatic fistula with a lot of hematoma around it, the fibrosis, as you can see, is great, and the fibrosis is trying to form a wall of the sac. So this is the aneurysmal sac. Now, what are the special points to remember in this aneurysmal sac-like thing? That means the patient is going to show you only this finding. You are going to get a swelling like this, and this swelling is going to be a pulsatile swelling. Now, if you can see the pulsation, the skin over the swelling is seen to either have a scar if it is surgically created, or have a puncture mark if it is a traumatic thing. Sometimes in a dark skin individual, this may not be seen. Next one is that the temperature is elevated, because as you can see, this is an area that communicates very quickly with the vein. What is very important is that you can palpate a you can palpate a thrill in that, and when you put your stethoscope, you will hear a bruit, which is usually a continuous machinery murmur. Please remember these points for an examination, and this is exactly what the examiner is wanting you to ask. So it is a pulsatile swelling. Skin can either have a scar, skin can have a puncture mark, temperature is elevated, it's a palpable thrill, there is a continuous machinery murmur and a bruit. So this is something that you knew. What is important is that, is this swelling compressible or reducible? This is usually a compressible swelling. Please remember this one. So this is all about the points. Till now, we are still undergraduate. Now let us talk about what happens before the fistula and what happens after the fistula. And we have now crossed the terrain of undergraduate and then come to postgraduate fistula. Now let us talk around what are the changes that happen proximal to the fistula. Now, proximal to the fistula, ladies and gentlemen, understand a very important thing. The blood from the artery is going to go to the vein. Very simple, because of high pressure and low pressure. This is very simple thing to understand. There is a high pressure system to a low pressure system. So when it goes to the vein, okay, there is an important thing that is going to happen. When it goes to the vein, two important points. One, the preload. Now, preload means the delivery into the atrium. That means the right atrium is going to increase. Why? Very simple. Like again, a basic student, Sir, because all the veins are going to come to what? Inferior vena cava, superior vena cava, so it is right atrium. Now, number two is that, so it is going to go to the right ventricle, right? Now, parallelly, the afterload now is going to decrease. Why this is afterload? Because definitely the resistance that the blood gets to go is decreased. Okay, so that afterload decreases. That means technically enough, the systolic component of the blood pressure is either normal or increased, but the diastolic component of the pressure is usually decreased because the afterload decreases. So now this can rarely, remember, if this is a large AV fistula, particularly seen with the congenital AV malformation, can be known to produce a cardiac failure. So please remember this part. Okay, this so now, so this is the first part. Now, an important point to remember for a postgraduate examination. If this is the artery and this is the vein that I have drawn, A is the artery, V is the vein, and the blood is getting circulated or circuited through this. What happens if we compress the artery like this? Say for example, there is an AV fistula and this is the AV fistula. This is the, sorry, I should take the color red. Okay, now, so this is the AV fistula and the AV fistula is getting fed by this artery, as you can see this. Whereas this one is the vein and the vein has become like this. Now, what happens if we compress the AV fistula? And now if you compress the AV fistula, give a proximal pressure, definitely the venous return in the proximal pressure to the artery is going to decrease the venous return. So if the venous return decreases, as you can see, if the venous return is going to decrease, now what happens is that the hyperdynamic circulation state, that is formed is partly corrected, because as I have said, the more amount of blood that goes to the right atrium of the heart, again that problem gets partly corrected. That means when you talk about that thing gets partly corrected, okay, what happens is that the pulse rate and the blood pressure, something that was important, is now again, so it changes into the previous, that means a pre-existing state to know. Now what is important is that this sign was technically described as the Nicolandani-Branham sign. So in this and this sign called as the Nicolandani-Branham sign, also called as a Nicolandani-Israel-Branham sign, Nicolandani sign. Okay, these are the same names to that. What happens is that if you give a proximal compression to the AV fistula, the artery in the AV fistula, what is very important is the swelling reduces in size, the palpable thrill and the bruit that is auscultated will decrease, the pulse rate and the blood pressure, the pulse rate and it becomes technically normal. So the pulse rate again becomes normal. Now, if the previous pulse rate was more than 100, it now becomes less. So this is all about things to talk about in a Nicolandani sign into this. So this is the changes that happen in a AV fistula. Now, what are the groups of changes that happens distal to the AV fistula? Now, because in an examination, this is a better way to think about the patient, see the patient. Now see, what happens is distal to the AV fistula, there are two problems that are going to happen. If you again consider the same picture, I like drawing pictures. Now, so what happens is that this one is the artery. This artery was meant to supply all these fingers. Now this artery has the blood in the artery is now going back into the vein, and it is now in the vein. Now there are two changes that are going to happen, and in an examination this is something that you are always required to see. On the vein side, always remember that due to the circulation, the veins increase in the diameter, the veins become tortuous, the veins become elongated because there is more blood that is gushing through them, and technically enough, these are technically called to be somewhat as varicose veins, which is something that I do not like. But because remember that varicose veins is all about a reverse flow. In this thing, it is not exactly a reverse flow. So I will not be very happy with the term if you say that these veins have become varicose. On the other hand, I will say that the veins in the limb distal to the fistula have become prominent. Point number two, the veins technically are thus called as arterialized, and this is something that you require for an fistula venous access. Next one. Whereas if you think over from the artery side, the main problem is that as the blood is getting diverted, there is going to be a steal phenomenon. Now the steal phenomenon can manifest itself by usually a pallor in the fingers, and rarely either due to it can have a microinfarct, which cannot be a micro, it can be a gross infarction in the tip of the limb, or rarely because of this turbulences that can happen, there could have been some septic emboli. As you can see, we are making the color green, so that you can have some micro abscesses which are extremely rare to see. So you can have a micro abscess formation. So these are all those rare findings that go by. So this completes your examination. So whenever you get a patient with an AV fistula, point number one, always comment on the site of fistula. Point number two, proximal to the fistula. Point number three, distal to the fistula. In this, the examiner usually asks you that what happens if it is a congenital arteriovenous malformation. Please see that we are not using the word fistula anymore. We have graduated to malformation. Now, what happens in the limb then? Well, the answer for this is very simple. Whenever there is a fistula, remember that the distal part is getting more blood. That means distal to this, the limb is now going not to be like this. So if you have seen, that means the distal limb now becomes, oh my God, so big. Okay, so there is something called as a gigantism that is going to have. However, if you get a gigantism that is confined to one digit, say for example, this digit has a gigantism more, that means probably that the arterialization has been much more. So this is all about the main thing to know about in an arteriovenous fistula. So it was a short case. We have completed the description. Particularly in the description was what are the changes proximal to the fistula and a distal to the fistula. Okay, so this is all about things that you should know. Now in an examination, remember that the examiner will ask you, so ladies and gentlemen, what is the management that you do? Now, as I have said, now the question is a bit tricky one. Now, if it is a fistula that has been formed by a, that has been made by a surgeon for a therapeutic purpose, definitely the management of fistula means you are not going to take down the fistula, because definitely it has been done by the surgeon with a good intent. So that means when the examiner is asking you how will you manage such an AV fistula, he is asking you about what could have been, sir. So I will like to assess the fistula for a patency if you have done it for a hemodialysis, and I will like to assess the patient technically for complications that can happen due to the presence, and remember we are talking only for a surgically created AV fistula. Okay, we'll come to that in a minute. The next one is in a case of a traumatic AV fistula. Now the thing gets, now this is a different ball game. Okay, at this point I think that it is the best time to ask Dr. Shubhabrata Banerjee. Okay, so Shubha, are you there online? Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay, right. Okay, so the first question is that so how do we assess the patency? Say for example, you have done a successful arteriovenous fistula for a hemodialysis access. The patient comes to you in your outpatient department clinic. So as a vascular surgeon, what are the points that you see to assess the patency of the hemodialysis fistula?
Right. I would like to take it in a different way because I recall that during my MRCS examination, I had one of these cases as my case in a vascular vein.
Okay,
So
okay.
yeah. So
Right.
generally, how they hand you over the case is like you have a fistula in the hand remains exposed, and then you have to go ahead. So as you said, the first point, if you are judging the patency of the fistula, then first thing we have to do is we have to palpate for the thrill of the fistula. And as you have correctly said that you have to palpate it through the entire course of the outflow vein, that which you have depicted above the fistula. So you have to palpate for a continuous thrill for that throughout the course as far as you can palpate. Ideally, we palpate it till the close to the shoulder joint from the surgical creation side. That is for a cubital fistula. If you're doing for a wrist fistula, which is usually joined to a cephalic vein, you usually palpate it up to the elbow.
Okay.
The next, as you have said, is to hear for the continuous and the machinery, this thing, murmur. And it
Okay,
should be
that
a
means the first step
continuous.
is that you palpate. So I like drawing pictures. Okay, so palpate. The next one
Absolutely.
is here. Okay, so that everyone can remember this. Okay,
Yeah.
is here. Right. Okay,
So it has
next.
to be a continuous machinery, this thing murmur throughout the entire outflow vein.
Okay.
So that is what gives you clinically the patency of the fistula. And of course, if you have a lean and thin patient before you are, this thing either palpating or auscultating, you will see the entire arterialized vein throughout the course.
Okay.
But this is
That
not a
means
very good
this
sign
is
because, yeah, because you can have other
okay. That
branches, you
means
can
you
have
want to see the
obese
full
patient.
artery.
Yeah. So if you see that in your exam, start from inspection, then go to
Okay.
palpation, then go to auscultation. If you do not see, at least do not miss out on the other two points to assess clinically this thing, patency of the fistula. Then if you are
Okay.
lucky
Right.
enough to have a
So
handheld Doppler with you, just correlate this continuous machinery murmur along the whole tract of the outflow vein with the handheld Doppler.
okay. Right. That means that so for everyone who is listening to this class, very important golden points. You see, that means that the first thing that if the examiner asks you, what are the things that you assess? So you will like to assess the patency by palpating it from the shoulder, that means the axillary artery, down to the surgical site of creation. I will like to hear the fistula, okay, and then I will like to see the artery in the whole length, then ask for a handheld Doppler. Okay, just one point. Okay, what are the things, okay, that you are required to hear in a handheld Doppler? That means what are you trying to hear with a handheld Doppler?
For this
Say
AV
for example,
fistula.
this is the Doppler probe, right? So you are
Yeah,
trying to hear the murmur.
yeah, exactly. For the patency, we are trying to hear the murmur on the outflow vein only
Okay,
throughout its entire course.
so on the outflow vein,
Or
we are
what you have just described as the part above the fistula on the venous side.
okay. So it is handheld Doppler, but above the fistula. That means, say for example, this is the fistula F. That means this is the vein. Oh, sorry, I should take the blue color. Right. Yeah. So this is the vein. Okay. And this is the artery. Just a second. Yeah. So this is the artery in the fistula. So that means
Right.
where should the Doppler be placed exactly?
The Doppler should be placed, it should be placed on the vein, close to your F
Mhm.
at around 1 o'clock. Yeah, exactly from there. You start from there and you go as up as you can see or palpate the vein. That is, if you are drawing a forearm, it is up to the elbow at least. If you're having a cubital
Okay.
fistula, at least till close to the shoulder. Exactly on that track. Yeah. That's right.
Okay. So this is the way. That's a new thing that I learned today. Okay. Good. So this is for a handheld Doppler that you are trying to see. Okay. So this is the first thing that particularly for an MRCS examination, remember that this is the way that should have been a description. Good one. Now, the next thing is that, so okay, so that means that we have ensured that it is a patent fistula. Okay.
Right.
Now, as a vascular consultant, when you follow up the patients in your clinics, okay, what are the common complications that you look for?
Yeah. So again, I would like to take it up the exam way rather than the clinics way, because when you start
Mhm.
looking at the limb in this exam, what you tend to describe is whether, firstly, the vein is arterialized or not, and you can visualize it or not. Is there a surgical scar? Where is it, on the forearm or in the arm? And then you test for the patency, and then you come to the complication set. When you are looking at the complication
Okay,
set,
so
obviously,
okay, just a minute, Shubhu, just a minute. I will
yeah,
write these points for everyone's benefit one by one. Okay,
yeah.
so as a vascular, because I really like that approach. So what is the first point that you noticed into that fistula? Okay, this
Uh,
was a very good point, good way to describe.
Yeah. So first, obviously,
Okay,
when you
so
are in
what is
an
the first
exam,
point?
it's the laterality.
Uh,
So it's a left-sided forearm or a cubital fistula, wherever it is.
okay, so it is left or right arm and the site in the arm. Okay,
Yeah.
number one. Number
If
two.
you're given a time for a short history, please do include whether this is his dominant or non-dominant arm. If
Okay,
you are given a
golden
time for a
points.
short history.
Dominant versus non-dominant hand. Okay,
Right.
right.
Next is whether it's a heel surgical scar or what kind of a scar you are seeing.
Heel scar.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Then you look at the outflow vein as I have described, dilated tortuous
Uh,
arterialized vein
the
with,
outflow vein. Now the arterial, the vein is arterialized. Just to
right.
just one. Not. I do not want to digress. You see, many general surgeons call these veins to be varicose. Do you feel varicose is a good term to be used?
See, the entire essence of doing an arteriovenous fistula is to have an arterialized vein. So there's no scope of using the word varicose there, because
Okay.
what we essentially see is that it's a thickened, dilated, tortuous vein, which
Mm-hmm.
now has more amount of elasticity in its vessel rather than a normal vein. So it is an arterialized vein in one go, nothing to do with a varicose vein. And as you have rightly said, it does
Okay.
not have an abnormal reversal of flow.
Okay, so I think that, so this is a point that everyone please note. So please, because as an examiner, we usually get our students saying that, sir, this is a varicose vein that has happened, sir. Well, it is not a varicose vein. That is what Dr. Banerjee has very characteristically said, and I marked it with golden words. This is an arterialized vein. So please remember that one. Okay, so please, okay,
Yeah.
please continue. Okay, so
Yeah.
the next
So
point is,
next is, where we are now answering whether there are any complications or not. So first, as you have said,
mm-hmm,
there is a very big chunk where you can have a steel phenomenon. So you have a look at the distal part of the arm,
okay.
whether there are
So in
any
the
signs of,
okay, in the complications, okay. So will you like to take up complications later, because then people are waiting for 5 and 6. Anything more to see?
nothing more to see till now. But when we are describing the arm, uh,
Huh?
complications and one of the pathophysiology, that is venous hypertension, has to be described, like I think you have also taught us, like to describe it in
Okay,
one go.
so venous. Okay, so venous hypertension. That means, say for example, this lipodermatosclerosis, ulcers, and so on. And
Yeah,
probably I will be adding a systemic examination like that,
yeah,
auscultation of the
absolutely.
heart.
Auscultation of
Okay,
a heart and a high volume
auscultation.
collapsing pulse.
and a blood pressure and the pulse nature.
Right.
Okay, that's it. Okay, so these are the points. So ladies and gentlemen, please see, this is what exactly is a vascular surgeon's way of presenting a case of an arteriovenous fistula for your surgical exit examination. It can be for an MRCS, it can be for an examinations, it can be for an MS. Please look into these points. So we're not going to get this case elsewhere. So this is how exactly a vascular surgeon beautifully presents. Okay, so now coming to that, Shubho, what are the complications? So the first one is, as you have said, is a Steele phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay, where to see for a Steele phenomenon?
When I would be looking at the complications, I would like to simplify my thought before presenting it. One, I would be looking at the arterial complications, in which my major,
Okay,
I could probably do it in an arrow. Yeah, exactly like a flow chart. So in an arterial, where I would be looking at Steele and distal ischemia. For a postgraduate student, just keep in mind as if you're looking at a limb for ischemic changes distally. The next arrow would come for
okay, so
venous.
Steele and distal ischemia.
Right.
Okay, the next arrow will be a vein,
Venous. Yeah.
venous. Mhm.
So where you would be looking at, this thing for signs of central venous hypertension.
Okay, signs of hypertension, venous hypertension.
Right.
Okay,
And
that means
thirdly,
is those lipodermatosclerosis and ulcer.
yeah, edema,
Is it
pigments,
like that,
lipoderm.
or
We
okay? So
would be
edema.
mostly looking at edema, pigments,
Okay,
and
so
lipodermatosclerosis.
edema gets again 3 stars.
Right.
Pigment gets how many stars?
Close
Okay,
to
so
2.
how many stars? Close to 2. Okay, and
And
lipodermatosclerosis
lipodermatosclerosis is very rare but can happen.
1. So that means, so
Yeah.
the better point is I should omit the venous ulcer in that.
Venous ulcer.
Okay, right. Okay, so that is a better way to talk about. Right. So good. So we have
And
done with that one.
thirdly, always
Yes.
always look at the for any distal neural deficit, neurological deficit. Just
Okay,
don't
so
forget it, especially in terms
neurological
of a motor function.
deficit. So that means it could be sensory,
And
okay,
motor.
and it could be motor. Okay. Now regarding
Especially
this
motor.
okay, means what kind of problems can land up with?
Especially if you're having a cubital fistula, you can land up with a deficit in the median nerve.
Okay.
You can, I'm not saying you may.
Okay, so that means the median nerve injury can happen. So median nerve injury.
Right.
Okay. Right.
And
Right. So
the other neuropathies are, more of like a theoretical discussion, not very easy to pick up. So I would always just like to see the patient have a good grip distally. That's it.
okay, that's it. That
Yeah.
means I would like to draw the Facebook sign. So okay.
Yeah.
So there's a like sign in Facebook. Important thing is that look at the grip of the patient. So this is the grip thing. Okay, so that's a good one. So complications are divided into complications for an artery, complications for a vein, and complications for neurological thing, particularly median nerve and the grip of the patient. Okay,
Yeah.
that's it. So now, so let us again come back to the artery proper.
Right. So in the artery, if we are looking distally, just imagine that you're looking at an ischemic limb in short. That's it. I mean, not a chronic ischemic limb, but as you would examine an ischemic limb, right? So
right. Now, in this ischemic limb, say for example, there has been an fistula at the elbow.
right.
Okay. Now there has been a fistula that has been done at the elbow.
Yeah, I
Now
think, sir,
that means that
you have very rightly pointed out that this ischemic limb or a Steele is more common in an elbow fistula or a proximal fistula than in a wrist fistula. So that is very rightly pointed out. The first.
Okay, so that means that what happens is that a Steele and an ischemia is more common at the proximal fistula. So important point to remember, everyone. Please remember, more proximal is the fistula, more is the phenomenon. Shubha, why does that happen like that? That means the more proximal to the artery that you go, more is the chance of a steel or an ischemia. Why does it happen like that?
Honestly, I don't know why it happens like that, but as if I
It,
say you in a little bit of vascular details,
hmm,
not for the postgraduates, maybe even after, because I have never studied all of this in my general surgery. But if you just have a
hmm,
gross idea, there is a kind of a low pressure sink that happens when you
okay.
create a fistula, just as you described the hemodynamics before and after a fistula. So they
Hmm,
say that 5 centimeter proximal to the fistula and 2 centimeter distal to the fistula, you have a low pressure sink where
hmm,
there is tremendous turbulence of blood and you are diverting most of the blood back into the systemic circulation.
hmm.
This chance is higher with a more proximal fistula. Now you can imagine the brachial
Definitely,
artery,
the
yeah, is
right.
the main supplier. So that sink carries the blood back and it doesn't allow it to go to the forearm, and which has a major muscle bulk. The radial artery has a
Definitely.
weaker sink and a much lesser muscle to perfuse ahead. So the chances are less. I mean, that is how we vascular guys have
Okay,
read.
right.
There are
So
other
this is all
factors, but
about,
yeah,
but this is the important part. So this is an ischemic limb.
right.
Now talking about, okay, so now if they're evaluating this one, now
Mhm.
in this one, should we be doing an Allen's test?
Allen's, if Allen's must be done. I think this is a thing that we should discuss as to what we should do before planning for a surgical fistula. For Allen's,
Okay, so we'll be talking about that quickly. But then,
yeah,
so if
right.
the examiner is asking them, okay, doc, I have seen that you have examined the fistula. Now tell
Hmm.
me, what are the things that you like to see in this limb win a very quick 5 minutes arterial examination of
Right,
this limb, something that I have
right.
shaded in gray.
Exactly. So, firstly, if you're allowed to ask the patient, ask him whether his hand claudicates or pains during dialysis or at rest, like
Okay, so the point number one is ask about a claudication history.
right, claudication
Okay,
either by itself or during dialysis and or rest pain.
okay, so claudication during dialysis, or is it a rest pain?
Right.
Okay, right. Got your
If you're
point. Number two.
the moment you're allowed to touch the patient, look for the temperature of the limb.
Okay.
Do compare it with the other side and the exposed part on the same side that is above the fistula.
Okay. I think that everyone should have marked this with as many stars as possible. Please compare it with the other side. Okay.
Yeah.
Third point.
Feel for the radial pulse.
Feel for the radial pulse. Okay. Good one.
Yeah. Good enough. If you can palpate the ulnar, not very required.
Ulnar pulse.
Not much
Okay.
required, but you may.
So this
And if
is me. This is
yeah,
mandatory. Okay.
yeah. If
Next
you
one.
cannot feel for any of the wrist pulse, do look for the handheld Doppler to pick up any arterial signals.
Okay. That means if 3 or 4 is not well
Negative.
palpated,
Yeah,
please go for a hand held Doppler.
absolutely. That
Okay,
should answer your
right.
question whether you're having
How
a
to assess
ischemia or
the
not.
circulation? I think that, ladies and gentlemen, as a postgraduate appearing for an MRCS, FRCS, or DNV examination, this becomes a very important question. That once you have assessed the fistula, I have given you a very basic undergraduate view of fistula. This is what exactly a postgraduate student is going to get asked. How are you going to assess the vascularity of the limb distal to this? And so this is a very beautiful way to document that one. Okay, good one. So this is how we are going to assess the distal ischemia and the steel. Okay, is there any role to assess for any capillary fill and a capillary refill?
Mm, difficult, but yes, I think we should do it during the exam, not to miss it
Okay.
at least. Yeah.
Right. So it should be done during an examination, right? Capillary fill and refill. This is not in this one. Okay. So this is all about things to remember in arteriovenous complications. So we have talked about complications. We have talked about artery, venous, and neurological. Because the important thing about asking is that because these cases are such common ones that the examiners are going to ask you that if you have such a case, how are you going to manage this patient? And I think that you have very beautifully told that if this is an access fistula that has been created, These are the points to see. These are the points to understand. Please take down the screenshot of this area if you like. And then thereafter we talked about complications. So in an examination, if you are given a theory question, what are the complications of an AV fistula? You can summarize by writing exactly like this. Okay, now let us come to the traumatic side of the fistula, of a traumatic side of an AV fistula. Okay, now when you talk about a traumatic thing of an arteriovenous, oh, before I go to the trauma, now see I'm getting old now. Now I really forgot to just ask you about few questions on that. And now, say for example, a general surgical trainee, an MS or a DNB student or a student appearing for his Royal College examinations, get to ask that, have you seen an hemodialysis or an access fistula? Okay. What should be the postgraduate answer? What type of fistula should they say?
If they're presented with a case, right?
Yeah, say for example, they're presented with a case. You see, Bijoko, because there are many hospitals in India in which a general surgeon usually does a usually does a radiocephalic fistula. Okay, so
Right.
definitely a vascular surgeon may not be liking that or doing that, but because of this lot of complications. But usually, remember, ladies and gentlemen, in countries like India, okay, so a radiocephalic fistula where number of patients requiring dialysis is really enormous. A radiocephalic fistula is usually a very common one to be done by even some general surgical units will routinely do this fistula. Okay, just a few technical tips to ask Shubho. If they are asking or if they get asked, because the examiner may be doing this fistula or his unit may be doing the fistula. What is the technical points to do about an say a radial artery and the cephalic vein? So this is the radial artery and I have drawn the cephalic vein.
Right. So just for a postgraduate, firstly we should know that surgically created AV fistula is done as an access for hemodialysis.
Okay.
And maintenance hemodialysis, that is, it is done only for end-stage renal disease patient and not for patients who are having acute kidney injury. Point number one. Point number two is that this is only a bridge treatment. The ideal treatment for an end-stage renal disease patient would be a renal transplant if and where possible.
Okay, that means till the time the patient can get hold of someone who donates a kidney, this acts as a bridge for a renal transplant. Okay.
Right. This is one of the routes for maintenance hemodialysis. There are other possible routes, such as you can have a neck catheter known as PermaCath.
Okay,
Or
that
you
means
can
in the
have
neck. Okay.
Or you can have a synthetic AV graft. What we see sticking out of the neck is usually a temporary neck, is not a durable access like a PermaCath or a AV fistula. So these are the basics, for a dialysis access for a postgraduate training. Now, if you're choosing which patient to do a fistula and where to do a fistula.
Okay, so which patient to do a fistula?
Yeah, so that we've answered. It's an ESRD patient who requires a maintenance hemodialysis.
Okay, so this answer is very straight. Is a end-stage renal disease. Okay, so that means the kidneys are not in a good shape. The kidneys are very unhappy, and so this is a end-stage renal disease, right? Okay, done. Next is where to do the fistula. Where to do?
Exactly. So, like in all other parts of surgeries, we are guided by guidelines. So there's something known as a DOCI guideline for all the postgraduates.
Okay, what is the spelling like in guidelines?
Is DOQI.
Sorry.
DOQI, for Delhi, O for Orange, Q for Queen.
DOQI guidelines. Have I written rightly?
Yeah. So this is
Okay.
basically a dialysis outcome quality initiative guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Now, generally speaking, you should do a fistula as distal as feasible, number one.
Okay, so point number one, fistula as distal. Distal means that, you see, my geography things are very poor.
Yeah,
Proximal
distal
and
in the
distal.
sense is away from the trunk of the body. So wrist fistula, we even do a snuff.
That means this is distal, this is proximal.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so that means
your-
more we go to the finger, the better it is.
Yeah.
So
So a
fistula
wrist
as distal
fistula
as possible.
is always
Okay.
a first choice if it is feasible.
Okay, so wrist fistula is always a first choice. See the man who is smiling, huge smile. Then followed by?
Then followed by
Then
an elbow fistula.
then followed by an elbow fistula. So
Yeah.
the elbow fistula is smiling. Okay, right.
Right.
So this is the first one.
Now, as I
Next
said,
one.
where possible. So where possible is depends on the diameter of the artery and the diameter of the vein.
Mm.
That is done on an ultrasound.
So that means the second one will be the diameter of the artery and the diameter of the vein. Now, any particular figures to remember?
International, we don't have any Indian data, sorry for that, but internationally it's 2 centimeter diameter for the artery
Mm-hmm.
and 3 for the vein.
Okay.
I beg your pardon, I think it will be millimeters, 2 and 3.
Oh, 2 millimeter for the artery.
And 3 for the vein, but these are all Western data. So
Western datas. Okay.
yeah, Indians have much smaller vein, but that is the ideal thing.
Okay,
And
just one question to ask about. In the wrist, about what is the usual diameter of the radial artery and the ulnar artery? They are around 2 to 3 millimeters, I think.
yeah, they are around that. But in Indians, you'll find it's close to 1.5 to 2.
Okay, so that means we are talking of the diameter of the radial and the diameter of the ulnar arteries. Particularly, I'm not interested of the ulnar. I'm more
Mostly
interested
the
with the
radial. Yeah.
radial
For
artery.
exam, I think it's radial. Yeah.
It's the radial artery. Okay, so
Radial
good one.
artery
So
and
this
the
is the
cephalic vein.
okay. So that means radial artery, cephalic vein. Okay, good one. Next.
Next is that the vein should be superficial.
So the vein should be superficial.
Ideally at a depth of less than 1 centimeter from the skin. Ideally, not always available.
Okay, so that means if this is the skin, the vein should lie
Less than 1
at a
centimeter.
distance of less than 10
1
millimeters. So as we are say 10 millimeter or 1 centimeter should be the gap between the skin and the vein. Okay,
Right.
done. Then
And this vein should be continuous, soft, and without any thrombophlebitis.
so the vein should be continuous,
Soft
okay,
and without any thrombophlebitis.
soft and without any thrombophlebitis. Okay, right. That means very simply, when we were interns or when we teach our interns, this is how what we teach them. This is how we select a vein for a cannulation, maybe.
Exactly.
Okay,
Ultimately, we are
right.
going to cannulate it.
Ultimately, we are going to cannulate it. Okay, so this is continuous, soft, and thrombophlebitis. Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
so
coming
done.
back to the artery, it should be non-calcified.
Okay. Now, in a
And
diabetic patient, that is a tough one, na, to get a
yeah,
non-calcified.
that's
So the
why
artery
you
is
start moving proximally.
okay. So the artery should be non-calcified.
Yeah. And should
Okay.
have a normal triphasic flow.
A very important point. Normal triphasic flow. Okay.
These
Right.
are general to any of fistulas anywhere in the body.
Okay, so please remember that what to do is general guidelines, and for everyone who is listening to this class, please remember that these are again very good summary that you are not going to find in your books. So please remember this one: fistula as distal as possible, the diameter, the veins which are superficial, the veins continuous, soft, and without any thrombophlebitis, and finally the arteries should be non-calcified with a normal triphasic flow. Okay, good one. So now we have selected a vein, say the cephalic vein and the radial artery.
Yeah, but especially
picture
for
that
the
is-
exam, if you're doing a wrist fistula, now comes the Allen's, which we cannot forget clinically.
Okay, so now comes the Allen's test that we something can do that. Okay, done, completes. Okay, now let us come to the technique. Okay, just a few principles because we do not have time to discuss about the technique. Okay, in the technique, what are the things that a postgraduate student should say?
The procedure can be done under regional anesthesia or local anesthesia.
Now,
Both
anesthesia could have been a local or a regional.
in the
Regional
form of
means what is
limb
that?
block. We usually do a supraclavicular block here.
In the form of a limb block. It is that Bayer's block, isn't it?
Bad with names.
Well, I'm confused with terminology. It's a limb block. Okay, so let
Yeah.
us keep it like that. So it is regional block. Okay, number one
Right.
point is anesthesia. Number two,
Right.
now
The incision for a wrist fistula is longitudinal.
longitudinal means that say this is the thumb size. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, which one will you like to expose? Will it be the plantar, or will it be the palmar aspect, or will it be the dorsal aspect?
It will be this thing, the palmar, I mean, the volar aspect. Yeah, palmar aspect.
Okay, so this is the dorsal aspect of the hand.
Not
So what
this,
I
but
should
the other way around.
now, right? So that means because I drew the picture so that everyone can have a understanding what is exactly into this. Just a minute. Okay, right. So this has been the limb. Okay, so this is the hand and this is the limb, right? So this is the cubital, this is the your snuff box area. The artery is going to be somewhere around this place. So this is the point where I am expected to get the artery.
Right.
Yes.
So,
So this is the point where I'm expected to get the artery. Right. Done.
right. So we stay a little away from, ideally, we mark our incisions on Doppler, but for a postgraduate student, it should be we stay away from the wrist joint. It's a longitudinal incision.
Okay. So if I
Theoretically,
can make right. So this is the vein. So the important points are again. So let us have it. So number one is that. So as an postgraduate, what is the thing that they should say?
the incision should be longitudinal. It should be
Incision should be longitudinal. Okay. And what is the next other thing that they should say?
it should be midway between the artery and the vein, or
So
it should
that
be,
means midway between the artery and the vein.
or it should be 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 away from the vein if the distance is very long between them. So it should be closer to the artery in the sense.
Okay, that means it can be more close to this artery. That means what I will do is that I have this magic cursor with me, which helps me sometimes. Let me see if it does it me today. No, I don't think it will do that. Okay, it doesn't allow me to do that. Okay, right. So it is midway between the artery and the vein. Okay, next point.
Once you
So
cut
after
through
we have right. So
Yeah.
after we have had our exposure, so now we have our exposure done. So after we have our exposure, okay, that means that say for example we have the vein which is lying on one side. So this is the length of the vein, and we have the length of the artery also that has been exposed. So both of these tubes that are lying by. Okay.
For a postgraduate trainee, do expose the vein first and then you come to the artery.
Any particular reason why? Okay, this is the proximal side. Now guys, remember that the proximal side means towards the elbow.
Yeah.
And the distal side means towards the finger. Because little amount of experience that I have creating over them, I sometimes do forget which one is up and which one is down. Okay, so distal is finger and proximal is elbow. Okay, so now important things are why the vein first and then the artery.
The vein first because the artery will be relatively fixed and in its position and you can palpate it. But to know the exact nature of the vein and where you are going to swing it and anastomose it to the artery, you have to expose the length of the vein.
Okay,
so
that
sometimes
means
you do see that a Doppler is misleading and you do expose and find that the vein is all gone. Somebody might have pricked it there in between the Doppler and the surgeon.
Okay, right. So that means the vein is exposed first, right? I get your point. Okay, then what? So you've exposed the artery and the vein.
Yeah. Now, what we do mostly is we do an end vein to a side artery anastomosis.
Okay, that means if you do an end of the vein to the site of the artery, that very simply means that in this one, do I need to then put a ligature across the vein?
Yeah, you should ideally always transfix the distal stump.
Okay, that means so I will always do a transfixation suture. So this is a transfixation suture.
Yeah, with a
Okay.
small proline now, maybe 6.
Okay, that means transfixation suture with a 6 of proline.
Yeah.
Right. So that means what we have done is that, ladies and gentlemen, we have had a transfixation suture, and I think that at this time it is good enough to cut the vein now or transect the
Yeah.
vein like this. Okay,
Yeah.
that means this is the point. Your stump of the vein is looking like this. Okay, so this one of the vein is open now.
Yeah.
Okay, now what to do?
Take the control of this thing, the artery, proximal and a distal control.
Okay, that means we take a vascular tape, we make a control. So this is the distal control of the artery, and this is the proximal control of the artery. Okay, so this is the distal control, and then we do the proximal control. Okay, so I think that everyone, this is a very clear thing that okay, we have done. Okay, then
we make a slit of about 7 to 8 millimeters, a longitudinal slit at the area where the vein is coming as a lazy loop onto the artery.
okay, that means that you now are planning to do an arteriotomy.
Right.
So we are planning to do an arteriotomy. Arteriotomy is a, definitely it is a tube, so it will be a longitudinal arteriotomy. Agreed. So the length of the arteriotomy, anything particular regarding how long
They say
that
it's around
should be?
7 to 8 millimeters.
So it is 7 to 8 millimeters. Okay, right enough. So that means if I make the next picture, okay, that this is the arteriotomy that is done.
Yeah.
And this can be the vein. Okay, so this is the end of the vein.
Yeah.
That is there. Right. So now what?
You may need to bevel the vein a little bit if it's the the size is not
Okay.
matching.
So it is a bevel the vein, right? Okay.
Then you suture the heel of the vein to your proximal side of the arteriotomy.
That means you join point A to A dash, I think.
Right.
Okay. And then this is B to B dashed.
Usually we don't go that way. We do A to A dash and then we come round, using the 2 needles of the proline.
Okay. And then, so that means A is first and then followed by B, or
No,
should
we
we
don't
be
put A and B both. We just anchor it with A.
Hmm.
And then both the needles come, if we take A and A dash as 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So one needle comes from A dash to around 3 o'clock. And the other needle comes from A all the way through B dash going down into this 3 o'clock.
Okay, that means that because see, we are general surgeons and our understanding is always with gut. Okay, so if this is the arterial, this is the arterial site, then say for example, this is the vein site.
Right.
Okay, that means, so sorry, I give a little longer vein. I should have drawn it exactly. Okay, now like this. That means if I understand this way, this is A and this is A dashed, and this is B and this is B dashed. Then what is the thing? I should take a proline suture
with a double-ended needle.
Double-ended needle. That means
tie
that
of A with A dash.
So this needle is going to look like this.
Right.
Okay. So tie of A with A dashed. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then
continue one of the needles with the anterior line that joins A to B.
Okay.
I mean the anterior
right.
one.
That means
this
we
line.
are
Yeah,
going
and
to
just stop there
continue
around
like
3
this.
o'clock.
Okay. So stop there around 3 o'clock. That means 3 o'clock will be like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other
so
needle
stop there
comes
around
3 o'clock.
Okay.
The other
So that
needle
means
now.
that
Yes.
right, and the other needle now comes at 9 o'clock, I think.
No, the other needle comes down all the way. It starts from A dash A. It comes around the
Okay.
posterior wall, goes through B dash, and comes back to this 3 o'clock.
Okay.
It's a long
So
journey for the other needle.
so it's a long journey for the other needle. That means that it may be then for one needle, the length of the distance should not be exactly at the middle. It can be probably 1/3 and 2/3.
Yeah, fine.
It is 1/3, 2/3. Okay. So that means it is a 7/0 proline.
It's a 7/0 for the wrist, 6/0 for the cubital.
Okay. So it is a 7/0 for the wrist. So this completes, I think, the anastomosis about this.
Right.
Okay. So after the anastomosis is done, which is an end to side, now tell me, after the anastomosis is done, this is the vein and this is the artery. Okay. Then now, how do you know that your anastomosis has been a successful one?
Yeah. This is the beauty of vascular surgery because you will get the thrill on table.
Okay, this is bad about the GI surgery. We wait for 4 days. Now, how to know that your anastomosis
So the
has
moment
been
you
okay?
are done with your suturing, you
Mhm.
do a bit of declamping. I don't think that is very necessary for AV fistula. Maybe if we discuss carotid someday, we can discuss declamping, not needed here. So the moment you let go of the control, what happens is that you can see the vein dilated and you can see the blood
Okay.
flowing through it and you can palpate for the through.
That means the blood comes like this and the blood
Right.
dilates the vein. Okay, that's it. Okay, now do you need to use a Doppler on table to assess the flow in the vein?
Not really. A palpable continuous thrill is good enough.
Okay, so that means if you are asked in an examination, a palpable continuous thrill is all that is required for giving a very happy face of the surgeon. So this is a surgeon who is very happy. It's a palpable continuous thrill in the vein. Okay, so this is all about technical things. So I think that everyone who has been seeing this class, please remember that this is exactly what a very, very good postgraduate. So if you have not seen an AV fistula, this is your chance to know an AV fistula. Okay, good one. Thank you, Shubha, on that. Okay, the next thing is that after we have talked about this hemodialysis access fistulas, let
I
us have a
think
few
just
words.
to add to that, if for the
Yes, sir.
completion sake, as a
Mhm.
surgery resident or somebody working in a
Mhm.
vascular surgery unit,
Mhm.
it is very important to interact with the patient before and after the fistula, and there are certain do's and don'ts that needs to be told.
Okay.
So very basic thing that the patient and the doctor must understand is that this arterialization of the vein and this maturation of the vein takes time.
That means
So
after the operation.
yeah,
Operation के बाद. Okay, ठीक है. Operation after the operation. Right. Okay. What are the do's for the patient?
yeah. Firstly is
And
that
right.
Firstly, it's that he do, there's a grip exercise that comes with the ball. Do those grip exercises.
Okay. Do the grip exercise.
Yeah. Do expect some amount of swelling, some amount of warmth, some amount of tingling and numbness in your fistula side.
Do expect some amount of tingling,
Warmth,
pain,
edema,
and numbness and warmth
and
at the
mostly edema.
and edema at the fistula
Side.
site.
This will
Okay.
go off, and
This will
go off, and thereby do not keep your limb dependent.
so this will go off in how many months? 3 months maybe?
Yeah, even quicker than that. Maybe
Okay,
around
3
6
to
weeks.
6 months maybe. Okay, 6 weeks time. Do not keep the hand. So I will be having it in the do not list maybe. So do not keep your hands
Dependent.
in a dependent. So this is very important. Do not keep your hands independent. So in your ward round for this, please remember that if you get an AV fistula patient in the ward round, well, this is a unique scenario to learn about. What are the things to tell the patient before you make the discharge? Okay, so do not
And
keep the hand
even
dependent. So that's
even more important, no prick, no BP, no blood sample from that hand.
okay. No measuring the blood pressure, no venipuncture. Okay, and what is the third thing that you said?
No blood sampling. I mean, same thing, venipuncture. Yeah.
No needle prick. That means, say for example, if it's a diabetic patient,
Do whatever you
so
want with the other.
all capillary blood samples are taken from the other hand, no needle pricks.
Yes.
So please
Right.
remember on that.
And even more importantly, for the patient, for the nephrologist, for the resident, that you are not going to dialyze through that fistula till it is matured. Usually somewhere between
no dialysis till the fistula is mature. Okay, what do you mean by this term mature?
Yeah. So it usually, again, it has a very rough docky guideline for it. It's the rule of 6 that we follow.
Okay. Now,
So,
rule of 6.
Yeah.
Right.
At least it
Okay.
should be 6 weeks from the date of surgery. The diameter should be at least 6 centimeter.
Okay.
The wall thickness should be at least 6 millimeter of the vein.
Centimeter, sir?
Not sir, millimeter.
Wall thickness is millimeter, yeah.
Wall thickness is in millimeter. Okay. So this is called as a mature. So that means this is important rule of 6.
Sir,
Okay.
diameter
We heard
6 centimeters of what, sir?
Of the outflow vein.
6 centimeters.
Of the outflow vein, yeah.
Now 6 centimeters is pretty huge. Oh, it's big. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
that means the diameter of the outflow vein should be that big. Okay, to now. Well, we heard about the rule of 6 again in the pseudocyst of pancreas. So we are now again have this rule of 6. Okay, the important thing. So this is a mature fistula. Okay, no dialysis till the fistula is mature. Right. So these are the do's and the do nots after the operation. So do for the patient, do nots for the patient. Right. So this is, so if you are given a post-operative care, that means that these are important words to remember. Right. Done. Anything more to comment, Shubha, before we come to the management of traumatic AV fistulas? Anything to talk about
This is fine, I
these
think.
access fistulas at the hand?
No, I think these are the standard
Okay,
points.
so for a postgraduate, I think that these are the standard points that you should know for any general surgical unit who does an AV fistula. I think that we have very, very well summarized around what are the things to say. Now, coming on to a traumatic AV fistula or AV fistula after a trauma in a limb. Now, this is something that a surgeon did not perform. So this is the traumatic AV fistula. Okay. Now, this is, for example, say for example, someone had a traumatic AV fistula. So this AV fistula had occurred in the hand. So artery and the vein, or we can have it in the leg. Okay. So in your experience about traumatic AV fistulas, what is the spectrum of patients or etiology in your hospital? Professor Banerjee works in Kokilab Ambani Hospital in Mumbai. So his experience is huge in these cases.
I think for traumatic AV fistulas, our experience is mostly iatrogenic to say. With the increasing number of cardiac catheterization and cath lab procedures that we do, inevitably we see most of our patients to be, iatrogenic. But this may vary from hospital to hospital, to be true.
Okay, that means in your case it is iatrogenic after fistulas. Okay, right. So now, so let us talk about traumatic AV fistulas. And say, for example, we had one AV fistula in the artery, and then we have this in the vein. Right. Now, so what is the management things, or what are the things to assess in such limb in a patient with a traumatic AV fistula? This is not an hemodialysis patient. Traumatic AV fistula, what are the points to assess?
I think I would go at it, again in the same way. I would like to first go, if I'm just told to examine the patient without a history, I would go at the local site.
Okay, say for example, okay, you are going now for a DNB examination. We'll be coming to the MRCS very quickly. Say for example, for an DNB and an MS, you are given this case. What are the points that you would like to take quickly in the history?
So history, initially, what was the trauma when it started with? What is the duration? Does he have any local symptoms, as in, pain? distal neurological or functional deficits.
Okay, so
He is-
pain could have been accompanied by sensory problems.
Yeah.
Pain could have been associated with a motor deficit. Okay, next
Right.
one.
Any distal ischemia that he has a history, that is claudication, rest pain.
Okay, history of claudication and history of rest pain.
Right.
Agreed into that.
And any
Okay.
local history, as in history of discharge or spontaneous bleeding or hemorrhage, which required attention immediately.
History of spontaneous bleed. Okay.
And then
And
obviously whether he has any systemic compromise, as in palpitation or.
Okay, so history of systemic compromise.
Right.
Right. So I can get your point. So these are the points in the history. So let us have a quick recap, ladies and gentlemen. History of trauma. How did the trauma happen? Claudication, that means distal part of the AV fistula. Rest pain, spontaneous bleeding, discharges, and history of systemic compromise. Particularly, I feel the history of palpitations, etc. Right. So now, if you are now going to examine the patient, points in examination. What are the points in examination now?
I
Of
think in
that
the
limb?
general survey, look at the pulse and the BP for a high volume nature, collapsing nature, if you find one.
Okay, so in the general survey, the most important point will be the blood pressure, which, ladies and gentlemen, as I've always told you, look at the systolic and look at the diastolic blood pressure, and please see the gap between the systolic and the diastolic blood pressure. See the widened pulse pressure, and definitely see the character of the pulse. Okay, high volume collapsing. Okay, next one.
You come to the local limb, then if I'm looking at a maybe lower limb, I would like to look at the local, part of that fistula, the site.
Okay, so it goes by again that same thing. When
Yeah.
you go for inspection, okay, we go for the site of the fistula.
Yes.
Okay, that means we go again proximal and we go distal to the fistula, I think. So it is the same rule that we discussed away in the AV fistula site.
Yeah,
Okay.
almost similar.
So
Yes.
that, so that means, yes. So anything special to see in this one?
You can, the only thing you may be able to see is that apart, different from a surgical fistula, is you might see like a lump, it might come in your lump and bump as it might be like a swelling with a leash of blood vessels and a local ulcer or skin necrosis over it.
So definitely remember that. So very, 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 very well made point for everyone to understand. Believe me that we had an auto rickshaw driver. Now, those of you who do not know what is an auto rickshaw, which is outside India, this thing doesn't exist that great. Okay, what is important is that well, it's a three-wheeler. Now, what happened was that gentleman had a traumatic injury around this wrist, and it felt as a soft lesion. Now, one of our senior residents diagnosed this to be an lipoma, which was very soft. But then, after he had intended to take out the lipoma, it started bleeding like hell. Then it was found out that he had a puncture injury, and that was technically an infected pseudoaneurysm, which was mimicking that as a lipoma. So please remember that with any lump over the course of an artery, if that lump has a palpable thrill, please always keep a aneurysm or an AV fistula in the back of your mind. Okay, so very important point set. Right. Okay, so please continue. So inspection done.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on palpation,
Starts
anything?
with again, temperature and whether it is tender or not. Temperature could be raised.
So temperature and tenderness. Yes, temperature is raised. Very good. Okay. Anything points?
Grossly again, as you said, thrill, compressibility.
Thrill and compressibility. Okay, right. So thrill and compressibility are this. Okay, good one. It's to me. Okay, after palpation, then what is the next point to write for
No
or
percussion
describing
really,
the
auscultate for a bruit.
Okay, so percussion is not a very intelligent. So because some examiners like that, some don't. So we definitely come after a palpation to auscultation, and in auscultation we hear something called as a bruit, which we have again said that is a machinery murmur, isn't it? Is a machinery
Yeah.
continuous sound.
Right.
So it is a continuous thing. Okay, good one. Right. Now,
And
beyond this,
whenever in a limb, always distal neurovascular and lymph.
okay. So what definitely with any lump in the limb and with any things, please remember that always see the distal neurological. That means neurological means sensory motor. The next one should have been the regional nodes. Particularly remember an infected AV fistula can have that one. So neurological and nodes. Kindly mute your audios, anyone who has this sound. So neurological and nodes, and the last ones are
And the
if there
distal
is any
vascular
joint pathology and the distal vascular, very important words. Okay, now, so how do you diagnose that this is an AV fistula traumatic? Say for example, that lump in that auto rickshaw driver, how do you diagnose this one?
See, this patient would be having no symptoms before the trauma. So typically a history of a penetrating trauma.
Okay, so after you have made the clinical diagnosis, very well said point. So it is a history of a penetrating trauma.
He may give you an undulating course where he would be having a little bit of a swelling or a hematoma there. And followed by this gradually, progressive lumpiness or
That
swelling.
means either the lump increases in size,
Yeah,
like this, or the lump may have been like this, gradually decreased in size to now become a fixed lump.
exactly, right.
Okay, or may have been that the lump had increased and decreased and now the lump became big.
Right.
So these are the three timelines. Okay, good one.
Exactly.
So this is the clinical diagnosis. Okay,
Right.
then how will you confirm your diagnosis?
Firstly, I would, do an ultrasonography, a duplex scan of that area.
Okay, I will like to do a duplex scan of the area. Okay, good one. Now, what are the points to see particularly?
I would firstly see that it's a high flow malformation.
Okay, so it's a high flow. All right. Number two.
Which is my major feeding artery.
Okay, which is the major feeding artery. Okay.
And which is my major outflow vein.
Major outflow vein. Okay.
What is my distal flows? Are they hampered or are they normal? Distal
That
artery.
means basically, are you trying to see off the runoff? Will that be a good word to use in this one?
Yeah,
Not exactly.
Not the runoff,
Okay.
but the distal arterial flows, whether they're really ischemic or not, or whether
Okay,
it's the
that
same.
means
Distal
the better word then will be that I would like to see the distal pulses, and the distal pulses particularly in that if they are triphasic or not.
Triphasic, exactly.
Okay, right. So okay, just one question, Shubho. If this is an AV fistula, what are the chances that it forms a clot and the clot dislodges to become an embolus?
Right. That is where, this duplex is very important, because you get to see whether there's a thrombus or not, and you are already, you have to see the distal flows. That is what.
Okay. Okay, so thrombus, right? And this is the reason I like to see the distal flows. Okay, so I think that point very well taken. So this is about the duplex area, about what are the points to look into. Okay, good one. So after you have diagnosed this one, so the diagnosis is complete, then what is your treatment approach? Do you need an angiogram to confirm your diagnosis?
Exactly. So for my, I think I can confirm my diagnosis on a duplex, but to really plan and map out the AV fistula, I will require an angiogram.
Okay, that means you need to have an anatomical road, maybe.
Yeah.
So for the anatomical mapping, I will definitely always like to go for an angiogram. So this is a very good examination answer. So we need an anatomical mapping for an angiogram
As we say, a roadmap.
or a road map. Okay, good ones. So this is a beautiful answer for that one. That's it. Okay, good. Next one. So after that, now what kind of angiogram is done? A MR angio or a CT angio?
See, if we are sure of the diagnosis of a traumatic AV fistula, and if we have ruled out a soft tissue lesion with our clinical and our duplex, we would do a CT angio.
Okay, so provided the kidneys are very good, kidneys are usually good. Okay, that means soft tissue injuries are ruled out.
Yeah, soft tissue injuries and soft tissue lesion.
Okay, so that means we do this. And when will you like to have a preference for an MR angio?
If we have a doubt for this thing, soft tissue lesion. I mean, if you're suspecting a sarcoma rather than this thing, if you're still not very sure with the duplex and the history, we would do an MRI.
Okay, that means okay, that means probably that that means that if you have a coexistent nerve injury or if you have a coexistent tendon injury, maybe that in these situations doing an MR is a good one. Okay, done. Right. Okay, so after you have had a roadmap, then what is your plan? After the roadmap, what is the plan?
Since it's an this thing, AV
Traumatic
fistula,
AV fistula.
yeah, it's a high flow AV fistula. You have to expose the fistula. There's no other way. So, I mean, there's no role for conservative management in this because it's a high flow.
Okay. All right. So there is no role for a conservative management. We have to go for a surgery. Okay. Now, what are the surgical options?
In an ideal world scenario, it's an angioembolization these days.
Okay. So angioembolization would have been the better answer.
Yes.
Okay.
If we are really planning it surgically, then we might ligate the fistula.
Okay. So it is again so divided into a conventional surgery versus an angioembolization. Right. So now in this surgery, this is the vein, this is the fistula. Okay. Important points to know. I do not know, the sound is really creating. This is the artery, this is the vein. Okay. So what are the surgical options?
Surgical options would be if it's like it is drawn, then it can be a ligation of the fistula.
Okay, that means step number 1 is ligation of the fistula. Right. Okay. Number 2.
Very messy. So what you have to do is you have to ligate of the vein. You have to ligate of the
okay. Now, very. So I'm going to ask you that one. So what is the status of the artery and what is the status of the vein after you have performed this procedure?
After the ligation. Yeah. If it is
after the ligation,
like it is
right?
drawn, then it is just a simple ligation, which is almost never true. I mean, we can only do the simple ligation when we are closing a AV fistula for a dialysis, for a transplant patient. But in a traumatic AV fistula, this is hardly
right.
So yeah, like the way you have closed it off. So that is what we do. That's it. We do nothing to the artery and the vein in that.
Okay.
Hello.
Now that means that, say for example, yes, hello. Say for example that we have a segment of the artery that has been exposed, like this one. That means then what should be done?
Yeah, the next option is, it is not as good as what we see, but it is a little bad in the sense on the arterial side we are clumsy and we take the roof of the artery like that. So what you can do is you can just close it with a patch from the vein. Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, like you put this thing, our Romental patch onto the
Okay.
perforation.
We can use it. Patch closer of the vein. Okay.
the artery.
Particularly the vein comes. Hello. The vein comes very handy. This one you can have a patch closer of the vein. What will you do with the vein? The vein has been now. This is the vein wall. So what will you do with the vein?
Vein need not be done anything. You can like it. Body has got lots of collaterals.
Okay, so body has got lots of vein. Okay, vein is something that can be sacrificed. So I think that this is what everyone needs to understand, that please remember that this is the way a vascular surgeon will have his approach. So very, very beautiful way to describe about this. Okay, so this is all about this part. Okay, so there were some examiners who are still asking something called as a quadruple ligation. I have never seen this or done this. What is this quadruple ligation thing?
I have only read it in the books. I have no idea. But as far as I have read, I think
Okay, yeah.
ligate the artery distally and proximally, ligate the vein distally and proximally.
Huh.
Then you put a conduit to maintain the continuity of the artery.
Okay, that's a very, very difficult operation then.
Absolutely.
That means that okay, so I do not know how many of us will be again going on for that, but I think that is not a very, very again a okay, so that is not a very good approach maybe. That means that the basic idea is that you ligate the artery, ligate the vein to prevent a distal ischemia. What you can do is that you can now put in a graft maybe on that. Okay, good one. Okay, now when you talk about endovascular options, what are our endovascular options?
Yeah, I think for a
Okay,
postgraduate.
just will take, ladies and gentlemen, 5 minutes more. Yes.
So for a postgraduate trainee, the answer should be it will require a percutaneous angioembolization directed by a DSA or a digital subtraction angiography.
Okay, so the answer should be percutaneous angioembolization. Okay, directed by a
DSA or a digital
subtraction angiography. Okay, anything to use for embolization?
Exactly. If you're asked the embolic
Anything to
agent,
use for an embol? Yes.
if
What
you're
is embolic agent?
if you're asked embolic agents for an AV fistula, yeah, postgraduate residence answer should be mostly a coil.
Okay.
Or you can use something known as a glue. That's it. I think you won't be asked more than that.
More than that, a coil or a glue. Right. What is the success rate of this one?
Exactly.
What is the success rate?
I think more than the success rate, the safer way to get out of this to an examiner is that I would like to pre-counsel my patient that you may require more than one sitting of angioembolization.
Okay, that's a very clever and a diplomatic answer. So it's a pre-counseling of the patient that you may need repeated sessions. Okay, you may need a repeated session in that. Right. So this is what you require. Okay, so I think that, so this is all about a traumatic AV fistula. Okay, Shubha, before we close, any more closing comments and before we ask everyone to ask you those questions? Okay, any more particularly closing comments on treatment or any other aspect of an arteriovenous fistula?
Not that we have discussed on the two aspects, the surgically created and the traumatic. This far is good.
Okay. So I think that, okay. So that is this time that, ladies and gentlemen, we end our class. So it has been an exhaustive discussion. So I try to take the student and the teacher format so that it becomes easy for every one of you to understand. Okay, I told you in the beginning that this is going to be like this. Okay, now please, I will be welcoming your questions now.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please go on.
Sir, angiogram for road mapping, do we do this in both elective and this traumatic cases?
No, sir, emergency traumatic AV fistulas, you are not going to operate as an emergency. Sir, it is not going to come as an emergency. It is a AV fistula takes about months to make. We are not talking of an acute arterial injury, sir. We are talking of arteriovenous fistula post-trauma. We are not talking of an acute arterial injury here. Okay, right.
Yes, sir. So, sir, we do in both traumatic cases and for access
Sir,
hemodialysis patient.
yes. That is the question that I need to ask Dr. Banerjee. Okay. Yes, Shubham, this one we have had a very important question. So, do we need to roadmap now for a traumatic? We need for a hemodialysis fistula. Do we need to put a roadmap for an angiogram?
No. Clinical criteria and the Doppler criteria, as we discussed, are good enough.
Okay,
That
clinical
is
and
for
Doppler.
AV fistula, I would say.
Right. Okay. Next one, please. Any more questions, please?
Sir, is there any specific size of going for a surgery in case of traumatic fistula?
No, a traumatic high volume AV fistula has to be treated. That's it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, immediately after the surgery for AV fistula, do we need to put the patient on blood thinners?
No, not really, unless you are doing a surgical bypass.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, and immediately after the surgery, if next day we are not able to assess the thrill, so sir, is there any we have to go for revision surgery, or is there any other management?
Yeah, there are a whole gamut of management, but essentially you should know that means your fistula is not working, and you need to either there would be a clot or something. You need to either redo it or clean off by an embolectomy or something. I think, yeah, these are more practical questions than exam questions.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, good one. Okay.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
please go on.
heparin free dialysis for 6 months or 6 weeks, sir. Or we can start heparin dialysis with heparin early.
No. When we are talking about 6 weeks, it is for the fistulas to mature, not related to heparin. So you will have to dialyze your patient through another route of access. So it has to be a permacath or a neckline or something else, but not this fistula. Your route has to be different. Nothing to do.
Okay, sir.
Okay, ladies and
Sir,
gentlemen. Yeah.
excuse me, sir. Sir, should it be the
Yes.
heparin-free dialysis before planning for the AV fistula? Is there any specific duration, sir?
Usually if the patient, I think before Ramanu sir told to all of you, as you said, a fistula should not be done when the patient is on dialysis. Ideally speaking, it's an end-stage renal disease who is deteriorating, should undergo a fistula before dialysis is started. But unluckily in our country, most patients are on dialysis. So we request the technician to do the last dialysis heparin free, and we then take the patient onto the surgical table. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
So are we done for the day?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Travel is the to disconnect.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got disconnected. Okay, so please, your questions, please. Okay, I think that Dr. Banerjee, just a minute, let me have the screen share. Yes, so I got disconnected just a minute back. Okay, so I think that we have had all our questions cleared. Hello?
Sir, one question, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, actually, sir, can you please explain how this fistula is formed, sir?
I could not understand your question.
Sir, means if there is a traumatic injury. Hello.
Hemodialysis fistula. Hemodialysis fistula. Hello.
Hello, sir.
How the fistula is formed? I could not get your question, sir.
Sir, a traumatic
hello, please.
fistula, sir. So, sir, when there is a
Mhm.
penetrating injury, sir, there will be some kind of hematoma that time itself, na, sir. So, how it later
Yes, that time itself.
after some years or
Now,
hello.
see, it doesn't take that year to the. Now, see again, it doesn't take that long, because what happens is that if this is an artery and there is a vein that is lying by. Hello, is my screen visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay. Shubha, are you there online? Hello. Hello.
Sir, left, I think, sir.
Okay. Right. So that okay.
I thought the
My
class
Zoom
was over.
connection is also okay. Right. No. So I got disconnected. Right. So this is the vein. This is this one. Now, so what is important is that see, guys. So if there is a penetrating injury like this, the main thing is that let us form a blood clot. So this is the way we explain undergraduates. So what happens is that there is a blood clot that forms down in this place. Now, after the blood clot heals out, all these enzymes and all those things that makes it, basically this is the problem that happens, and the two endothelium will join together. So this is the again explanation that we have, and you can go to molecular levels to explain matrix metalloproteinases, how do they create this nuisance, but the basic essence is this. Okay, so that's the slow recanalization. Right.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, any more? Okay, guys, so I think that so I need your comments from the class. It was so you learned many things new, I hope.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Hello.
sir. Very good.
Okay.
Very good class, sir.
Excellent
Thank
class,
you.
sir.
Excellent
Okay,
class, sir.
so I played the student down here, guys. I took notes for you guys.
Especially that part,
Okay.
sir.
Right. So the next class again, I will be doing that. Dr. Banerjee was my student, so he was my resident. So it is very proud. So as a teacher, you see, it gives me a real proud to see my students teach me. Okay. So I wish in a couple of days you guys will be doing the same with me. You'll be teaching me. Thank you very much. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Good night.